Welcome to the Uplift, where we are uplifting our lives, uplifting each other, and uplifting our communities together. Thank you for joining myself, Sai Herrera, and Tessa Savala here, two women, two attorneys, doing it our way, and inviting you here each week to share in on the stories, advice, and life lessons we've picked up along our journeys that keep us uplifted, and that will hopefully do the very same thing for you. Now buckle in and let's get ready to be uplifted.
Hello, everyone. As always, I am Tessa, and I am joined by the amazing and accomplished and overachieving and absolutely lovely Sai.
Hello, and I'm lucky enough to be here with the brilliant Tessa and all of you. Thank you so much for listening in.
I heard something very interesting this week, and I thought I had never thought about this in this way before. So, someone was talking about how they receive a no from someone else. And I thought, well, that's pretty important, right? Because we can internalize a no from someone else in a bazillion ways. And I'm guessing 98% of them are not great.
Yes.
And the person said to me, they thought that for them, when they heard the word no, it meant that that person is not ready for them. So say it was a no for a job. It was that person is not ready for a person like me in that job. And I was like it's like a modern way of saying, I think, one door closes, another one opens, because we've talked a lot about how other people's opinions, and a no is an opinion, is just that, right? Like how other people view the situation, not how we view the situation. I'm like, wow.
Or what it means about us.
Exactly. Right? And like, think how powerful that could be if we all started redefining no, or any of those type of opinions as a form of a rejection in typical society. Like, wow.
I like that one. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I have friends going through this right now. So it's so interesting that, there's a whole other take on it, because I mean, the first thing that people think is like, I'm not good enough, right?
Yep, absolutely.
They just think like, oh, well, they don't want me. I mean, that's not a good feeling to feel, obviously. But I was thinking this yesterday very randomly, where it just, for some reason, made me believe something like, it's not for you. That's another one that has stuck with me, where, you put things out there sometimes and people criticize them, for example, and I just keep thinking, or the thing that helps me, I guess, kind of, just understand that this is still a good thing, even if one person is in your face telling you it's not,
right?
is that, it's just not for you. And I like this. This is kind of like a play on that for me, where it's like, okay, like and what I'm presenting to you and offering to you is not for you in this moment. And that's okay. That probably makes sense to you right now for whatever reason. And when it is the right time, if it's ever the right time for us to work together or to do this thing together or what have you, then that will be the time that it works. So I like this. This is really a good one. This is a practical, like, good, kind of internal script that we can start using.
I particularly love the idea that it is not about what we bring to the table, right? It's about what the other person needs, whether it's a personal relationship, a romantic relationship, a job. I mean, are there other rejections that I've lost along the way? Friendship. I mean, so many, right? And
Family.
you realize that oh my God, family. Oh yes, we often forget that family is something that you could also choose, not meaning our chosen families, but meaning that we can choose to have a relationship with people who we are legally family with.
Or define the relationship how we see fit.
Yes. Yes. And maybe it's also like when we personally say no to somebody, how do we tell it in a way that makes them understand that it is not about something bad that they did. It's just what I'm not ready to have in my world.
Yeah. I think that's right. I mean, that's really the way it should be, and it all goes back to really, like, again, seeing the humanity in one another, you know, and I mean, back to preschool of, like, treating others how you'd wanna be treated, really. But, I mean, it's so necessary for us to remind each other, right? Especially because, I mean, there's so much that has become just, ingrained in us and how we interact with each other. And some of it's very cruel, actually. I find it really interesting. I don't know if this is wildly off base, but I was at a fair last night and these little kids, they're so cute. They were like in sixth and seventh grade and they were like flirting with each other, but very loudly because they were shouting between
Oh, that is adult.
line and ride.
So how do kids flirt these days? I'm
Oh
intrigued.
my gosh, it is so intriguing. Like I was just observing and I mean, they still use their friends to be like, "She likes you."
So that hasn't changed.
That has not changed. She wants to talk to you. The thing that's changed is like they're like, "What's your Insta? What's your Snapchat?" Instead of "What's your number?" And then it was so funny. They're like, "What's your number?" And he was like, "I don't know."
That is
They were like,
awesome.
"What? How do you not know your number?" It was so funny, and he was like, "Okay," like, looking it up, like, literally looking up his own phone number, and it took several minutes. It was so funny. But one of the things that kinda horrified me, I just have to tell you, was, oh god, I can't remember. It must have been one of the friends about the girl who liked him or whatever, and, they were like, "Rate her." They were like, "Can you"
No.
Yes, I was like, "Oh,
Okay,
no."
that sounds
Like,
awful.
I know, I was trying to be I was like, "How do I tell them this is horrible?" But they were like, "Rate her 1 to 10," and I was like, "You why are you asking for this? This is why do you want to be judged?" It was so intriguing, and then I really started thinking about it, like, maybe they wanna know if, like, they're on the same page, like, I was just like, "Why would you
Oh,
just
maybe.
subject yourself to this?"
So was it the friends asking for her to be rated?
Yes, but I mean, I don't think that she was opposed to it at all, like, sh I mean, this was just,
Oh.
like, really interesting to me, and I was like, "Oh, no, don't do it." And then it was funny because it was, like, the whole time they were just like, "Will he, won't he?" type of thing, and then they were like, "He's gonna come around and give us his phone number," and then the ride ended, they didn't see him, they were like, "Rejection," and I was just like, "Oh my god, the emotions that are going on right now." That maybe they do all the time. I mean, it's you kind of also forget about, like, how intense that time is too, for personal relationships and how important they are, and all the things. And so, yeah, this just has brought this back up for me where I was just like, "Oh man, y'all are putting yourselves through a lot right now to talk to this boy." I wouldn't think you need to, but
Yeah, it's like, kids, you got so much time ahead of you.
Yes, and so yeah, it was really interesting, but it brought it up for me as we were talking because I was thinking, I was literally terrified for them whenever he was about to rate her, which he did, by number, and I remember I could hear them being like, "Oh no, what if he says like you're a 5?" Or like, like they were just like going through these scenarios of anxiety too. I was like, "Oh Lord, I can't take this."
Ye
I couldn't.
This is a lot of stress.
There's so much stress. But, like, how would they have internalized it too? Like, this is literally just some random stranger, so maybe they don't care. I don't know. But I'm sure I think that they do, like, they were fretting over it, and all of that, and this is just one interaction, but I mean, what if it happened over and over again? Like, even, like, with some of my friends now, it's like somebody is, like, going through a job hunt, and they're just like, "Nobody wants me," kind of thing, and I'm like, "Ouch," it's really painful,
Yeah. Yeah.
when you just internalize it as, like, you're deficient, there's something wrong with you. I mean, and that's really the, like, default messaging, so, this is a big one. I think it's really, something that we're not equipped to deal with, and rejection is one of the, I feel like strongest motivating factors against people taking risks,
Yep.
trying something new, going out of their comfort zone, like rejection is an extremely powerful, what would be the word, like deterrent, for people to not go out there and step into their greatness, right? It instills a lot of fear, and so I like this so much because it helps us, understand that, this is not about you. This is about, this moment, all of the people involved, all of the circumstances involved, and, whether or not this is the right, fit for both of you, really. And the way that I think about it sometimes is I'm so happy. Okay, first of all, somebody said rejection is your redirection, which I love.
Also nice. Love that.
So I've been keeping that one in my head because it's so true. Like, and from my experience, anyways, it's like every time something didn't work out, I know it sounds kind of like faithy kind of thing, but it's like you can see looking back, like, oh, that makes sense. If I had gone there, then like this other great thing wouldn't have happened, and
Hmm.
I would have just been occupied with that other thing, and that wouldn't have led me to where I'm going now, and I'm excited about where I'm going now, or maybe maybe you think it was still the perfect opportunity, but you don't really know until until you get to somewhere else. And so um that helps to understand that, like, it's not even rejection is your redirection. It's like, yes, this is where you find your real place. But also, like, is it really rejection, or is it really, just an understanding between everyone that this is not, this is not the opportunity for them, and really it's not the opportunity for you.
And I think there's a very simple example where we are good about talking about to ourselves about this, which is trying on clothes, right? Like we
Mhm.
all know that
Mm.
say a size 8 at this store is not a size 8 at that store, and
Mhm.
on and on and on, right? Like, and it varies differently, and
Mhm.
cuts vary. And I think we have gotten better about saying it's not us that don't fit the clothes, it's the clothes that don't fit us,
Yep.
right? Like, it's about the clothes being inappropriate. But I wonder why we don't do it when it comes to personal relationships,
Mm.
right? Because it's very similar, right? It's kind
That's
of
right.
it works, it doesn't work
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So I
They weren't a
think
good
we're
fit
okay.
for me. They weren't.
Exactly. And I wonder if we thought about like all these type of interactions that way. Like even if you're the kid on the Ferris wheel flirting with some other kid, and it turns into, yeah, wasn't right
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Then yeah, then like this wasn't the right opportunity. Exactly. Yes, and the close thing is so real. I remember, at some point in my life where, that's thing switched in my mind, but also I remember thinking like I had to kind of like denounce the entire clothing retail industry
As we all
by
should.
saying they don't even make clothes for my body type, which was very true. I mean, it's getting better now, but I mean, you don't realize that when you're young. You just think like I'm supposed to be able to do what everyone else is doing, or I mean, literally, like, I mean, these institutions, I don't know if they don't realize or don't care, but they have so much power in the mind of, especially in the mind of young people, but really all of
Hmm.
us.
Oh yeah,
It's
all of
it's
us.
just it's like this unspoken, like, this is it. This is norm. This is normal. This is just the way it is. And if you're not in this, if you're not fitting in, literally and figuratively, then the message becomes there's something wrong with you, unless we acknowledge it and we take ownership of it and we change the narrative ourselves.
Absolutely. I know that my, let's say 70 plus mother has very, what I would call a troubling habit of asking other people whether something looks good on her. And my response is always to her, how do you feel
How do
in
you
it?
feel in it? Yes.
Because that's what's important.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I wonder if we also start asking ourselves not only they're not ready for me, but how do we feel in that situation, right? Like, would you want to work for somebody who questions your
Mhm.
potential or questions
Right.
your ability to excel? Or would you want to be in a
Right.
friendship with somebody who doesn't see the best in you?
Yes, 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 yes. And you gave me that advice at a very particular time I always remember. I tell people all the time where I'm like, why would you want to be with them if they don't want to be with you? And at the time I thought that that was such an interesting, like, it literally did not occur to me. I was just like, because I do want to. Like, I want this thing. I want them to like me. I want them to acknowledge me. I want them to praise me, and it stuck with me though. And I realized, like, you're so right. And that literally was like the set of my path to my new goal of finding my people. And I think that's the opposite of what we're talking about, the opposite of rejection and, internalizing people's judgments of us, or, internalizing what we perceive as rejection. Um, is is seeking what you really need. And what you don't need is to find yourself in a place where people don't value you and see you for how
Yes.
brilliant you are, and they literally are missing it, right? So if
Yeah.
someone's not hiring you, it's because they don't see it. And,
Yep.
that's not their fault that they are so, short-sighted. But
Right.
it just is the case. And we have to deal with that reality, that they don't see it. And why would you want to be in a place where, I mean, really, like, if you got into that place and, let's say they settled for you. I know that sounds like a terrible way of saying it, but let's say in their minds, they really wanted, Kim, but they were like, okay, well, we have Tessa, and Tessa could do the job, but not like Kim, and then they brought you
Hmm.
in and they felt like they always wish that they had Kim, and they're always looking for the ways that you are not like Kim and how they wish you were. Like, I mean, and you could do the same thing with personal relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wants to be second choice. I mean, you just really don't. You really want to find people who just get it. They get it. They see you and they're like, hello. I am so excited to work with this person, to be with this person, to, have a relationship with this person. I mean, that's what you want, right? Don't you want somebody? Don't you want something? Don't you want a place? Don't you want to be surrounded by people who get you and who already, are really excited about you, or really just in love with you? Like, I mean, I think that's what I mean when I start talking about, I'm trying to find my people. Like, I think that that's there's a lot in there, and some of it has to do with the fact that when you're not amongst your people, or people who kind of get you, or at least have like some, I don't know, kind of like common denominator with you. They have some kind of, shared experience with you, or at least shared values with you. Then, you know, you don't. I think this is why so many people have issues with belonging. I think that we're forcing a lot of these, things. I know I've been in situations where I'm trying to force it and it just doesn't fit. And I've been so much happier, like, changing that mindset of like, I want this person to accept me. Please give me this job. Please give me this opportunity. Please give me a chance to prove myself to you, to a mindset of, I know I'm brilliant. I'm trying to find other brilliant people like me that we are going to thrive together with. Like, that changes everything, where you're just like, I'm just looking for my people. I'm just looking for the ones I'm for and the ones who are for me.
You know, this made me think that this is especially horrific, the situation of rejection from an employer, because they
Mm.
have these like set ideas, right? Like they have
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
list of what they're thinking is
Yep.
correct, and they want a round peg to go into a round hole. And you know
Yes.
what? Nobody's going to be that perfect round peg.
Right.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Everybody's going to have something that they don't like about them,
Mhm.
because that's life.
Yep. And they
And
always
I
start
think,
off with the ideal, so you're
oh
completely
yeah,
right. Like,
oh yeah.
it's like, if we could have the ideal candidate, it would be and so you've already, like, set this wildly high standard to begin with.
And I I'm thinking about like, remember your first job after law school, right? Like
Mm.
we all have these ideals of like what the pay will be and what we'll be doing and how we'll be treated, and not reality. At least I was not prepared for the reality of it. And it made me realize that it is not about us. It's not about us as, either young employees or even us today. It is about them and how they're viewing how do we fit this like square peg into a round hole.
Mm.
And
Yep.
I think it's a little better in personal relationships, right? Because it's a little amorphous, except for we all have that friend who's like, well, I only like a person who is like this and like that. And, they have to be taller than me, they have to be shorter than me, they need to have dark skin, they need to have light skin, they need to be, you know,
Hmm. The body type, that they like
yeah,
everything, the jobs even,
everything.
yeah,
Yes.
everything.
And it's not helpful. It's
No.
just not
I
helpful.
thought it was so strange when somebody asked me what my type was once, and I just was like, "I don't know."
Human.
I just yeah, I was like, "Whoever the fuck I'm attracted to, I guess." I don't know. So,
Exactly.
it's just weird to me.
I was actually talking to a friend a couple of years ago, and she was looking to start dating again,
Mhm,
and she had a very, very narrowly defined type.
mm,
And I was like, wouldn't it just be great if every human was just like, I'm attracted to humans?
mm, yes.
And she's like, nope. And I'm like, okay, don't know how to give you advice at this point in time. You're asking for my advice, and my advice is like, be a little more open-minded. But that was not the answer. That was
Yeah.
so desired.
And I wonder where
But
that comes from too. Like, as you're speaking that, it makes me think about something. It makes me think, like, what is your aim? What are you seeking in another person? Because I'm just gonna say what I think in that moment. For me, it's like if you are building a type of person and you're not open to a relationship with somebody who you organically would literally be attracted to, because that's how that works, right?
right,
Um, I mean,
totally beyond your mental control.
right, right. Like that's literally the most natural thing is like, oh, I'm surprisingly attracted to this person. Like you could be surprised, that's fine. But
Absolutely.
to like reject the idea that you could be attracted to this person, I don't know why, but for me, it's giving you're trying to have this like, picture perfect situation. And whenever I think about perfection, I always think it's for somebody else. because
100%.
because perfection is like again this thing that does not exist except for in the minds of other people, and it's really like what you think is in the minds of other people. It's completely ironically perfection is actually subjective, right?
Yes.
Ironically.
Yes.
So that to me is saying a lot of things, and it feels like it's coming from a place of like insecurity and wanting again acceptance from other people. And I think that's why I've just never related to that, because I'm like I've always been of the mind of like that's none of your business. Like none of your
Same.
business who I want to be with, who I am with, why I'm with them, why I mean, I got over trying to explain myself to people when I was a teenager. Like, I was just like, no, not your business. Like, get over
Love
it.
that.
And you can have your life and I'll have mine, and that will be just fine for me, because it's like literally everybody makes all kinds of decisions in their, especially in their love. Like, to me, that's the most like personal, private thing you could possibly
Yeah.
talk about.
That should be
Besides,
protected at all costs.
yes, exactly. So, and not only because, it just is and it's like the thing to do, but also because I mean it in my mind anyways, in my life anyways, it's such a huge part of, your happiness and satisfaction in life, like who you partner with and choose to spend most of your time with. It's so personal, just literally in the fact that you are the one who has to live that and live with your choice, right? And all of your choices. Um, like somebody else's opinion could literally not just, change. your decisions, right? But could literally change your experience with that person. And that's the part
Mm-hmm.
that I've always been so protective of because I'm like, you're not gonna come and mess up my good thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing great. We're happy. And if you're gonna come and like poo poo on it, I don't want to hear that. Why would I want that? Why would I want you to plant seeds of doubt and negativity and ugliness? Like, no, thank you. I don't need you to come like poop in my garden. That's great. Go away.
And,
So,
and that makes me think it's like, instead of like a microaggression, that's like a micro
yes.
rejection, right? Because it's
Mm,
encouraging you to reject something that you already fully enjoy.
yes.
And our
Yes.
family and our sometimes our close friends can be really, maybe unintentionally, but really bad about like interfering with personal relationships that you have.
It's just making me think about some of the things I've had to tell people. I've told people like, well, good thing I didn't, get with this person for your satisfaction. Just one thing that I've said.
Perfect. I love that.
I've also said like, if you're gonna talk shit about the person that I love, I don't have to come around you anymore,
Hmm.
you know? And I don't think that people understand until you tell them. I mean, there's so much of this that has become enculturated and acceptable. I mean, like talking shit about each other is like, a pastime for some families. I mean,
Oh my
and friend
God.
groups, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we have a whole culture around it, like that we talk about. So, it's literally like if you don't tell people and stand up for yourself and let them know, like, this is not okay, then they would never know. They would just assume that it's fine because that's what everybody does to everybody behind everyone's back. And I think it's, you know, pretty bad. But at the
That's
same
very
time,
bad.
like it's very real. And so for me, I've always said like, whatever people think of me is none of my business. If you're gonna talk about me, please do it behind my back because I don't want to
Yeah.
hear about it,
Yeah.
like that is none of my
Absolutely.
business. Please keep me out of it.
And then you think, okay, I know this happens in my experience, like even when you stand your ground,
Mhm.
there's the pushback, right? Especially from
Oh,
family,
yes. Oh,
like,
yes.
oh, come on, you can tell us this is how it really is, or
Or we're just trying to protect you, like the
oh my
sainthood of
God.
it all. We're just trying to help
Ugh.
you. Didn't ask for it, don't want it, don't need it, goodbye.
Yeah, this is like in my head when politicians say, "Oh, I just want to protect the women
Or
in
the
sports
children.
and the
Oh,
children
God.
because I want to do something horrible to,
Everyone
LGBTQ
else, yeah,
people
of
or
course.
women in general, or I
Yeah.
want to protect women from their own decision making,
Oh, Lord. Yes.
whatever it might be."
Yes. Yes.
But it's all
Yes.
wrong. Let
It's
me
all
just say,
gaslighting. It's all
yeah,
gaslighting, actually. Like
absolutely.
that just made it very clear for me in the family, in the friend groups, all of that. People who want to give you there was something really funny on the show where this is petty, but she was like, "Don't let somebody without a man tell you how to be with your man," or something like that. And I was like, "That's just funny." Like I can't not laugh to that. But it's also like, don't let somebody, gaslight you. Like they're trying to tell you what to do with your life. And it's your life. They don't have to
Yeah,
live it. So their opinions are not worth as much as yours. You're more invested in this than they will ever be.
so true. So true. And I kind of wish there was someone around who told like 16-year-old me that,
Mm,
right?
yes,
Like think how useful it would be for those kids. And maybe they're like, maybe Gen Z is like much better than I was. I don't know.
maybe. They're telling each other. They're they are holding each other like that, I think. But who
But I
knows?
also
Who
think it's
knows?
a human experience
Yes,
too.
yes, yes. And I mean, even from your peers,
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, I mean, you get it from all over the place. And I mean, even from, the larger forces that be, like we talk about social media and the expectations that we're setting and internalizing for our bodies, our careers, our families, our everything. So it's like even if you don't have like, a really chismosatia telling you all kinds of wild things, in your ear all your life, you may have like, a I don't know, like a, a whole thing in your feed. that is just feeding you, ironically, feeding you information subconsciously or consciously about how you should look, how you should act, how many friends you should have, or what your relationship should be like, or what you should be eating and how you should be exercising. Like, I mean, literally the list goes on forever. And just as I'm saying it, I feel stressed out because I still find myself internalizing so much of it, thinking, well, if I want to be healthy, this is what I should be doing, and it's just, it's so much. I mean, my goal in life right now is like actual liberation. That's my word of the year. Like, how can I
I love
be
this.
the most liberated bitch you ever found? Like, that
Love
is
this.
that is my goal because I don't feel like I need to answer to anybody. Like, I feel like I've, been a grown woman for a good long time now. And yet people want us to answer to so many people, even if you're putting up boundaries with your family and your friends
Hmm.
in healthy ways. I feel like there's these other pressures of like it's so strange. Like the world has really, really changed, as we've talked about many times, from like my teenage years until now. I mean, that's only what, like 15, 20 years. Like it's really not that long. And
Yep.
the world has completely changed. So for me, it's like, I mean, I can't even really do a lot of like posting because it's too much pressure for me. Like I feel like I'm having to perform in this strange way of showing people like where I am, what I'm doing, how it is, my family's happy, I'm happy. Like it's a lot. I was watching Queer Eye the other day and Tan was nailed it and said something so good, which he was like, I call this American happy, where you look really happy.
Oh my
But
God,
you're
that is so
actually
true.
very sad and alone. And I was just like, damn, he's just serving it hot. But it was just like a matter of fact for him. And I was like, he's just being observant. I'm like, this is real. I'm like, this is really what people are doing all day. Just fronting,
Hmm.
basically, as we used to say in the
Hmm.
90s, just posing, just like
Hmm.
literally posing for the camera and showing people something that may or may not be true, or maybe it's somewhat true, but it's not the whole truth. It's never the whole truth online. It's never the whole truth. It can never be the whole truth. I mean, when people are vulnerable online, I mean, they're like winning awards and shit because
Yep.
people are just like, I've never seen anything like this, right? Because nobody is really doing it. There's not a good amount of people doing it. So, um, even if you are able to do that and be genuine, I still feel like it's such a strange dynamic of like instead of like calling my one Thea and being like, I'm so happy this is happening, blah 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 blah, and then being able to talk to her about it and talk about the challenges that came before it and how I've grown or whatever. Like, I mean, there's so much more nuance to that conversation
Oh
than
yeah.
I'm posting a picture online for my entire family, all my friends, every stranger I've ever met, an acquaintance, now um online to see. It's just so bizarre. It's just such a whole different world actually. And people are probably, I mean, I wonder what people think about when I'm speaking this way because that's my outlook on social media. I think it's a very interesting social human experiment rather, because we don't really know what it's going to mean for all our relationships. I mean, we're starting to find out, and we're starting to find out, in a lot of ways that it can be really bad for individuals, but we really don't know still. Like I'm interested right now in this idea of like how does that change your relationship? And I'll just say for me, I think that whenever I go to like tell somebody news, if I've already posted about it, I think, well, they probably already know. There's no reason to call them. And so just
It,
that is weird
that
and
is weird.
different.
And I think this is why I preemptively only post things that are related to my dogs,
Hmm.
my garden, and something I've either cooked, baked, or a table I've set. Like it is very like arm's length because
Yes, yes. Which you know
as
your
a
boundaries. I love that.
I do, and as a Swede, I'm not like an oversharer on things. So the idea of oversharing to people that could be strangers is very like that's hard for me. That's like
That's
super
good. I
hard
think
for
that I
me.
think we need a little bit of that injected over here for sure.
So there's definitely no American happy in this world for me because I'm like, huh?
I love it, but I mean, that's really an important piece of it, and I know I'm talking about social media right in the moment, right? But just boundaries in general. I mean, boundaries in social media, we talk about boundaries all the time, but, like, are we understanding that that means everywhere, everybody, everything?
Yeah.
It's like some people might have boundaries at work, but at home, it's all bets are off. Everyone gets to use me, and, like, I like some of the ways that this comes up are people might say something like, "Oh, I just can't tell him no," or
Uh-uh.
I
Mm-mm.
can't, I
Mm-mm.
can't do that.
Mm-mm.
Those are my parents. I can't do
Uh-uh.
that.
Mm-mm.
You
Mm-mm.
know, yeah, red flag all over on the field, right? And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that the boundary situation, it's like everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but we're all starting to become exposed to this idea and hopefully working towards it. And we're all on different parts in our journey with boundaries. But my point being is that it gets very real when it's with the people who maybe, I don't know, you're closest with, or you feel some obligation or duty to, that it gets really hard. It's not the same as like, oh, I'm going to set a hard boundary with my friend who I really don't care whether or not she's my friend, like that's a whole different situation.
And
So I'm,
maybe
yeah,
like the rejection idea at
mhm,
the beginning was saying no, maybe it's the idea that we don't want to reject people, but what if we
right.
didn't think about it as rejecting,
Mm,
but as protecting
correct.
our peace, right? Like,
Correct. Yes.
and I think even I, who am sometimes slow at setting boundaries, yeah, I always get to that point because I realize I need to protect my peace. And it's
Yeah.
something that maybe we all need to do almost on a daily basis, right? Like, whether it's, you know, should I be exposing myself, overscheduling myself? That's a good one because I have to do
Mm.
that, right? How do I protect my
That's a
peace so that I can,
boundary for sure.
yep,
Can you get a boundary built into your calendar, honey? That is the
yes,
test of the workplace.
which is about, protecting your peace because being overscheduled then
Mhm.
stresses you out. But it
Mhm.
also, I think, takes you away your ability to really enjoy that moment and enjoy that person or persons that
Mm.
you're with, right? Because you're always worried about, am I going to make it to the next thing on time?
Yes. Yes. Or like you literally like my Tuesday actually, very apt. I think I had 6 meetings in a row and I was like, the day is
Ah,
now over and I very much do try to practice being present in the moment. Like I try not to chat or any of that stuff, but it was like, because I had back to back to back meetings, at the end of the day, I looked, I had so many messages that I hadn't gotten to. I had so many, like, things that I needed to do that I just was like, when was I supposed to do that? It just didn't make any sense. It's like I don't know how I thought I was going to be at a meeting and do all this other work at the same time. It doesn't make sense. And so, being really thoughtful and accepting of like your limitations, right? I think that it's very
mhm.
much in intertwined with that idea, which is that we want to believe, or at least I'll say I want to believe that I can do it all. Like I want to believe that like, yeah, somehow I'm going to do all these tasks and I'm going to meet with all these people and like I'm going to do long term, short term and immediate planning all at the same time, like, and I'm going to do all of this in, I mean, I literally sometimes double triple book myself. I'm not joking, like, and it's so wrong that I've realized like unless I can block things off my calendar to just have like deep thought about things, then I'm
Mhm.
always just kind of spinning my wheels, like unless I can have time to set direction, to think long term, to get into a whole other mindset. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm not. I'm not being smug about it because I'm not there. I'm saying these are my goals. Like these are the things that I've realized are, it's harmful for me not to plan in these ways and not to protect my precious time in these ways. And if anyone has ideas on how I can do better at that, please comment and let us know because I'm still working on it.
I know it took me a long time, being a person who works for themselves, it took
Mhm,
me a long time to realize I need to put time on my calendar
mhm.
for attention to my business,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
and I had to protect it. Like, I couldn't, for a long time, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe on
Oh,
Fridays
just
I'll do
move it. Yeah,
administrative stuff and I'll
yeah,
just move it. And things came
yep.
up, and I'm like, nope, I
Yeah.
owe it to myself to
That
protect
part is the
myself.
hard part. It's exactly what I was talking
Mm-hmm.
about with boundaries where you're like, "I'm gonna do it," and then you're like, "No, it's hard."
Mm-hmm.
How did you get
Absolutely.
past that hump? How did it work for you?
I just got so overwhelmed one day that I realized I had
Mm,
to. And
mm,
it shouldn't get to that point, right? It shouldn't get
right,
to almost like breakdown before
right,
it gets fixed.
right. It's so hard to tell people no. I mean, I just wanna recognize
It
that,
is,
it's really hard, and especially when, you're
including
excited to work
yourself.
with them, including yourself. It's just really
Hmm.
hard to be like, "No, I cannot do that." When you feel like you actually could, but no, you have to just tell yourself that this is off limits somehow. And I'm talking to myself, I'm trying to coach myself through it right now. Like, you have to do this. It's not an option, right? But another part that helps, I think, is for me in all things, like visualizing something, like understanding it, mentally acknowledging it, all of that is like step one for me. And then step two is usually like start speaking it into reality, and not like in a woo woo kind of way, but like literally in a psychology kind of way of if I tell
Hmm.
you that Tessa, I love you and I want to work on this podcast every day, but I can't even think about it on Mondays and Tuesdays. Like saying that in real life
Yep.
helps cement it for me and for you. So we're setting
Yep.
expectations and we're setting boundaries, right? And then if it comes up, I mean, you can literally hark back to that and say, no, remember, I was telling you before, like Mondays and Tuesdays are the worst, and
Yep.
it's not possible. Then it's like, oh yeah, yeah, let's reset that boundary, right? Like, and it just becomes more real if you start talking about it. So now I know, like, I have some employees who know, like, no, I know you don't want to meet on Friday, and I'm like, correct. but
And
but
that's
maybe I
so
need to tell a lot of
important.
people, exactly. It
Yeah.
because like people start checking, like then they don't even ask you. It comes to the point where
Yep.
it's like if you keep reinforcing it, and you don't have to do it that many times, really.
No.
It's
And you
just
don't
like
have to be mean
two
about it.
times, maybe. Yeah,
Yep.
like you could be really kind about it and just literally remind people, be kind and remind, right? Like just let them know
Love that.
again. Okay, remember we talked about that? Yes. Okay, perfect. So let's find another day, right? And so that's it. And then at the end of the day, or eventually, I should say, it might take different amount of times for different people, but they'll get it, and then they won't even ask next time. They'll just say, "Oh, what about Wednesday?" Like that's just how it will go. So we have to just stay consistent. That is the key.
And I think what we realize in that is that we're staying consistent in protecting ourselves.
Yes.
Right? Like I had an experience this week and it was completely innocent and there was no malintent about it. But as a child free person, I get often asked two things.
Mhm.
Will you or won't you ever have children? And two, you have the best advice. You are the type of person who should be. And I'm like, should I though? Because I'm pretty sure I know me better than you know me.
They're like, I've come to a conclusion knowing you in these last several minutes or even years. That's the other thing. Nobody knows you as well as you know yourself. Like, that's another thing
Yeah.
that we just don't give ourselves credit for. We just assume that everyone else has the answer. Why do we do that?
And I think this goes back to the societal expectation, right? Like,
Mm,
especially on the child-free situation, right? Like,
right.
and I'm just like, who made up that rule? My usual
Hmm.
go-to question. Who made
Hmm.
up that rule? Oh yeah, somebody who wasn't me. So no, not interested.
I love it. And I don't understand how people, I mean, it's just so fascinating. We've talked about socialization and how it works, but I mean, this is really a product of like, a true like kind of mob mentality is what they sometimes call it, or like just groupthink, of
Yeah.
like everybody has somehow come to the same conclusion that this is what's supposed to happen, and it applies across the board, which is just so interesting to me because I know that every single person has something in their lives. I don't care what it is, but there's something in everybody's life where this was not the societal expectation. Like
Oh yeah,
there's something. It
100%.
might it might be your religion, it might be your, child status, it might be whatever status. I mean, it could be anything, but
Yep.
everybody has something. And if that's the case, then You would think they'd be able to relate to that, you know? And maybe that's the thing is like maybe we point out how silly all of these societal norms are when they never apply to everyone all the time.
No.
That's just like I mean, we almost like it just accept that it's real when it's not. Like we're giving it power when it's not real. It really isn't real. It is just what people have been programmed to socialize each other with. That's it.
And I will step into the role of Tan, which are amazingly large shoes to fill, so I'm not going to do this justice. However, but let's also face it, these are American ideas.
Right, right, absolutely, they are, and we know where they end on I mean, frankly, like, that's the
Yeah.
other thing is, like, why are we all socializing each other to be miserable? That's actually, like, insane. That is not it's not okay. It doesn't make any sense, and the thing that kills me too is that, the way that in this country we are so proud of the ideals that we think that we like created, which we know we didn't, but like these
Mhm.
ideals of freedom and individualism. I mean, these are our big values, right? So what the fuck, what is happening? Why are we trying to push everyone into the little box? It doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, because it is a country that, as an immigrant from a very strong cultural identity, I will
Mhm.
say that there is a strong push towards assimilation,
Mhm.
a huge push towards
Right.
assimilation, and
Oh yeah.
I was not into it as a kid. I'm still
Mhm.
not into it,
Not
but
still not into it.
no, it is just like, why are you taking away people's identities
Individualism? Like
and
that I mean,
individualism,
isn't
which
that
is
a
so like
thing that we're supposed to love?
in in my head, there's so many times where I'm like, I don't understand how that view of America fits in with America, right? Like the
Yeah.
individualism, but we want to assimilate. The freedom of religion, but it's only one religion. I'm like, I
Right.
don't understand any of
Right.
this.
Right.
That women can achieve anything, but we really want you just to be at home having babies.
Yeah.
But what is happening? It doesn't make any sense in my mind and my knowledge of American
Why
history.
does
And I
it
read a
remind
lot trying to
me?
overcompensate.
I know. I've been obsessed with our history too. Like, how did we get here? Like, it's a very interesting
Yeah.
place to be. Why does it remind me of narcissism though? Like narcissists are like really, really like known for presenting all the good things, right? So like it's giving narcissists to me because
Mhm.
it's like, oh, we want you to think that we are like the freest place on earth. Everybody has, the opportunity for the American dream, all of those things. And at the same
Mhm.
time, we want to control your body, control your identity, control like your religion. Like, I mean, literally, it's
Yep.
like all the control on the other
Mhm.
side. So, yeah, it's giving me that, and, I don't like that. And I think that's why I'm in this year of, like, actual liberation, like, individual
I
liberation
love it.
is what we're seeking, because if we don't have that, then what do we have? I mean, I think that, like, the values that I was, taught of freedom have, like, taken too much of a hold where I believe, like, yeah, we should have that. We should actually
Yeah.
have that. Not in appearances, but we should actually really have that. And I think that's the issue is when you try to start, having integrity in values and acts, um, those who would try to control us and have us be otherwise, they don't like that.
They do not. They very much like at the beginning of this,
Mhm.
round peg, round hole. And if you're
Oh,
anything
that's a
different
whole
than
other
the round
thing.
peg, round hole, it's not
Yeah.
going to work. Yep.
Well, that's a whole other like version of rejection that I think we haven't really said out
Mhm.
loud, and I always go here actually. Um, People will sometimes, tell you whatever they have to tell you to get you to do what they want you to do. It's called
Mhm.
manipulation, right?
Yes, it is.
And
It is alive and well in America.
yes, and everywhere probably, unfortunately. But one of the things that it made me think of in this conversation is we think sometimes rejection is, something to internalize and make us, we should feel bad about ourselves. We should maybe change ourselves, right? But have you ever thought that not only is this just not the right fit, like we talked about earlier, or maybe this person's not ready for you or doesn't know how to grow your potential and help you achieve your greatness because that's somewhere else? Maybe it's not just that, but maybe it's literally this person or these people or this, institution is actually actively trying to manipulate you against your own interests.
Well, that just took my breath away and is a little frightening.
But it could very well be, right? Like, I mean, I
Oh,
think as
absolutely.
eternal optimists, one of our things that we always have to check is, are we giving people too much of a benefit of a doubt? And I mean, this is why my education in intimate partner violence I value so highly, because didn't have the language before of understanding that some people are malicious. Some people are trying to actively harm you for their own benefit. And I didn't want to believe that. I still don't want to, but unfortunately, it is a reality. I've seen too much of it to know or to try to pretend that it's not, right? So
Hmm.
that could very well be. And I've seen this too. I've seen it where people realize like, oh, you're too much to handle, like I mean, it becomes like you're a threat, right? Like you're too brilliant
Yep.
or you're too, you have too much potential and we want to make you small, because if we don't make you small, then you might grow right out of us
Yep.
and then we're not good enough for you. And it comes from that place of insecurity and fear, absolutely. But the way that it appears to you is, this person told me, no, I can't do it. I'm not
Yep.
capable. I'm not ready. How many times have we heard that? Like,
Oh, yeah.
you're not ready for that, or you need to do this and that before you do this, or you don't have the right degree. That one kills me because, first of all, it's such an elitist thing to say.
Absolutely, it is.
But people use it all the time. And I mean, it makes me sad that, but I mean, especially women of color, people who are othered in general.
Hmm.
Like I've seen it over and over again where they're like,
Hmm.
I already know how to do this. I already know that I can do it for my community, which is my entire goal. But I'm going to go get this certification and pay thousands of dollars just so I can show people that I'm worthy, basically. And I'm just like, ouch. Like how much time are we
Yeah.
wasting on this? You proving to people
Too
before
much.
you do, it just drives me wild. And so we have to keep that in mind too, that it might just be that this person is not able to see the value that you bring. It might be that they literally are not the right place for you to grow into your greatness. And it might be that, they're trying to keep you small. And that one's a lot more nuanced. Um, but I really challenge people to, start at least checking for that. Just make sure that that's not what's going on. Because if you're feeling small and you're feeling degraded and you're feeling bad about yourself, first of all, check the people around you and make
Hmm.
sure it's not them, because those people can be replaced.
Yeah.
And then think about, if it is them, why would they do that to you? Why would they want you to feel that way? Why would they want you to be weak? And and just check, just make sure that it's not because they are trying to control you.
And I'm sensing in my head that most of this is going to come back around to narcissism,
Mm, yep.
right? Like
Hmm.
that. I feel like that's where it's headed. At least in my world, and it's probably because I work in politics and it might have a disproportionate number. But
No doubt.
yeah,
No doubt.
yeah, and
No
I
doubt.
think,
And it gets accepted too, right? Like that's
oh
the
my
other
God,
thing where, like,
and
not only
appreciated and
and appreciate
valued.
and rewarded, right?
Yes.
And so it's not just like narcissism in the sense of like you have to have this, like, this is your whole identity and diagnosis. The way that I think about it is that there are now these, like, I've always thought about like the difference between healthy relationship habits and unhealthy relationship habits just generally. But like the narcissism that's prevailing in our society in the sense of not individual diagnoses, but the sense of that these unhealthy relationship habits and styles and tools that people are modeling for the entire society are being picked up even by people who maybe they're not narcissistic or maybe they have some tendencies, but they were never acting on them with such efficiency and with such productivity as they are now that they've tooled up, frankly, because if you really look at, abusers, for example, they use the same tools every time. They
Yeah.
really do. It's so amazing to me actually because I'm like, these fools don't even know each other, but somehow
I
they're
love
doing
this
the same
phrasing.
thing. They're in the same playbook, right? And I'm like, is there like an abuser handbook that I don't know about? Like they literally know how to do it. And I actually think the handbook comes from, I mean, they've seen it somewhere. And what really
Yeah.
frightens me, truthfully, is I used to think like, oh well, this is contained to people who have had, really bad role models. And I mean, and I'm not even blaming them. It's just like literally these bad habits and tools have been passed down from generation to generation, and we have to stop it somehow. But and maybe I'm giving too much credit, but I really feel like part of the issue is that we've had these tools kind of propagated on us from on high. And now we're seeing, it's just becoming normal to use these really, really unhealthy relationship tools and these habits and mechanisms by which to control other people. And that really makes me sick because we're going in the wrong direction, and it's going to be so much harder to undo that as a society now versus even when it was just individualized and personal relationships. Now I feel like it's entered into like this larger public arena.
I have the phrase hurt people on repeat in my head
Mm,
while you were talking. And I
yeah.
had to explain that to my mom this week, who is, not, has not been exposed to a lot of like, we'll call it mental health training, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
equipping yourself to deal with these people.
Mm,
She's very optimistic and very strong. But when overbearing narcissistic people enter her world, it's
mm-hmm.
like it doesn't compute, right? Like she is the classic Swedish
Mm-hmm.
brain, like, nope, this does not compute. This
Yeah.
is not how Swedes are. Nope, this is not working.
Not how sweets are rejected.
Yes. I'm like, well, we're not in Sweden anymore, one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, not only do we need to remember to protect ourselves and protect our boundaries, but we need to remember that when people do and say horrible things or manipulate us, it is about them and a
Mm,
reminder that hurt people hurt people.
yeah. But it
And do we
doesn't
really?
excuse their behavior.
Absolutely not, because we are
Yeah.
all perfectly capable as adults of
Mm-hmm.
understanding what is correct behavior and how you should
Yeah.
treat people.
And it's not your job to fix them. That's another trap.
No, so true. So
There's so
true.
many traps around narcissists. It's terrifying, right? Like they play on all of our emotional buttons, all of them. They play on everything. They play on people who want to, save other people, the helpers, the empaths.
Hmm.
They play on the people who, I mean, their tools are wildly effective. Like, I mean, there's love bombing for the people that need affection, and that's their love
Yeah.
language, right? There's also the tools of people who like chaos theory. Like, there's a whole other thing of just like, I guess, shock doctrine kind of thing, where it's like they just keep hitting you with more and more terrible things. So that way, like, you're kind of stunned and you don't even know where to go or where to start. There's so many tools, and they're so effective. It's very terrifying. I feel like we need to do a whole thing on just like identifying these issues.
I think we
Just-
do too. Because now I'm like picturing this, like, I think it's because we started with your lovely talk
Mhm.
about state fair, or, a
Mhm.
fair and kids. Now I have this image of those little games where like the gopher pops up, you're supposed to hit it with this foam mallet to mark it
Mm,
down. And that seems like narcissists, right? Like they pop
yes,
up with different techniques because they're
yes,
so good at manipulating you to get what they want.
yes, absolutely. And then
To
and
your
they also don't
detriment.
care. Yeah, they don't care if they hurt you.
No.
That's that's the whole thing. problem.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so we need to be on the lookout too for that. So, like, when we're feeling rejected, when we're feeling like a no is cutting like a knife, we need to know that, this is not the right thing for us. This is not the
Hmm.
right person for us, opportunity for us. And if we're feeling it over and over again, we need to check to make sure this person's not intentionally hurting us. And we have to really, take ownership about who we allow in our lives and how much impact we allow them to have on us. Every time, I'm talking to someone who says, like, oh, this person is doing this to me, this person is doing that to me. Yes, that can be very true when you're in a situation that it's difficult to change. But when it's somebody like they're texting you and they're driving you nuts, I'm like, you have all the power in the world, baby. Like,
Yes,
you
you
got the world in your
do.
hand. I'm like, you literally can silence that. I'm like, there are times when you actually do have power and you can use it and you can be unapologetic about using it because instead of letting somebody ruin your dinner,
Hmm.
you can choose not to let them ruin your dinner. Sometimes it can be that simple. Sometimes it's not. But when it is, you need to block. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, and this is why that when I have family at over for dinner, I do not allow phones at the table.
Oh, thank you.
And I say this, and my, you know, 75-year-old father has thrown his phone in anger when he's not allowed his phone to. And I'm like, all right, toddlers, cool, this is cool, 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 cool. Hmm.
70-year-old toddlers. That could be a show. That sounds like a reality show.
It does. And I'm thinking that there might be a lot of them. It could be
Oh, yeah.
seasons and seasons and seasons of it.
Well, I'm not saying anything about your dad, but I mean, I think a lot of that, again,
Oh, it's
comes
okay. You
back to
should.
saying a lot of that comes back to like the bad relationship styles, the unhealthy
Yep.
relationship styles, the narcissism of like me, and I should have what I want. And I mean, that's a toddler's mentality. And a lot of time, I mean,
Yep.
frankly, I don't, frankly, I don't, I think that's offensive to toddlers because
I'm starting to see your point here with that. Yes, it is offensive to toddlers.
I really do think it's offensive to toddlers because, I've experienced some wonderful toddlers in my time that were very sharing and giving and loving and all about, really like more about the collective than any adult human being that I know.
Yep.
Like, so I'm like, I don't even know why we're talking about the but I mean, yes, the behavior can get like that with tantrums sometimes and all of that. So I know where you're coming from. But I mean, as I go
Hmm.
along, I'm like, this doesn't even track. Like, this is more narcissism than toddler behavior in my mind. But
Oh my God. And now I'm just realizing as we come full circle, like thinking about all the like no's I've heard over a lifetime.
mm,
I bet a
mm,
lot of it was from now a lot of narcissists who only saw things one way and
yes,
were incapable of anything else. And we're trying to manipulate a system
yes.
into their ideal.
Yeah, and they think it's a reflection on them too. Don't
Yeah.
forget, like
Oh
that's
yeah.
very. It's always about how they look, right? I
Yep.
mean, think about how Trump was literally like, "I want people on my cabinet for the United States of America who look like they're coming from a casting call or whatever." Like, I'm just like, my mind is blown. My mind is
Oh
blown.
my
Like, you
God.
literally want. Like literally appearances, like not even like this is not a metaphor, people. This is you literally want people who look attractive instead of people who can do some of the most important work in our country. Like, that's the kind of thing where you have no idea what's going on in people's heads. You have no
You do
idea of
not.
who they are, what they're thinking, why they're thinking that, if they're coming from a good place or an ugly place. Like, you just do not know. And, yeah, the other thing, just as a practical thing, is I've really said, you really don't even know a place. It's just like a relationship, until you've been there for a while, right? So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
all of this interview talk and resume, building and resume review and all of that doesn't mean anything to either side, honestly. I mean, not anything. Obviously, it's a good process in a lot of ways, but you don't truly know. You don't truly know whether it's a good fit for the employer or the employee, in my mind anyways, and in my experience, until you've seen them, in that space doing the work. And like, you get to see what it's like to work for this agency, and they get to see what it's like having you work there with them. So I mean, that's just another thing to understand that rejection at that point in time is not really a full rejection because
Yeah.
there's no way they could know you. There's no way they're going to know you from a short conversation and a piece of paper.
And from the hiring side, we have all seen that there are a lot of people who might, flip the script and might be the narcissist on that side who give a really great interview.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying. As an employer, you can't you don't know from an interview. You
No,
really don't. You don't know these
no.
people until they're in there. And I mean for a while because the other thing, like I always say in personal relationships that I don't know why this is my rule, but from my young experience anyways, I was like, you don't really know someone unless you live with them for at least 2 years. Like that's just my that's because I'm
I
like
think that's
people can
fair. Yeah.
I'm like, people can pretend for a while, y'all. Like they
Oh,
can really
yeah.
they can show you the pretty face for a good while. And you really don't know, who someone is until they show you. And then you're like, oh, anyone can tell you anything, but then when you see it yourself, oh, okay, now you know. And it's the same thing with employees. It's like you literally don't know until you see it yourself. You just won't know because they'll tell you whatever you want to hear, frankly. And you know what?
Hmm.
Employers do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we have the
100%.
best benefits. Oh, we have the best team. We have, like, I mean, they'll go on and
Oh, don't worry about vacation days. We're so
yeah,
easy
oh
about
yeah,
that.
we are so encouraged. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people gaslight in that situation too. Like, oh, we encourage our employees to do that. No, you don't. No, you
I
don't.
don't. No,
No, you
no,
don't.
no.
They just, I mean, everyone knows how to spin, to present their best selves. And that's another thing we didn't even touch on. But I mean, honesty in the process is a
Oh,
healthy relationship style that we should all adopt on both sides. We really should, because at the end of the day, you're actually trying to find the best fit. You're not trying to impress somebody. When you try to impress somebody with, frankly, lies, what are you going to get? You're going to get a dishonest relationship that's not going to end well. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So you're just wasting everybody's time. So,
and for somebody for people out there who might be like me, who are very like my walls are very high.
hmm
Sometimes honesty is just being more vulnerable and telling what you
hmm
appreciate about somebody. Like I
hmm
might withhold appreciation, or at least younger versions of me withhold appreciation. Now I think I'm doing a much better job about appreciating and sharing how much I value and appreciate other people. Because that's part of it too, right? Like you can't
yeah.
reject people by not telling them how great they are.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes employers withhold praise because, they don't want to give like a raise, they don't want to give a promotion. I mean, it's a whole
Hmm.
game. It's a whole game, and I don't like it.
I totally agree. And you are absolutely right that it requires more honesty. And I just don't want people to interpret honesty as like that of 10 years ago where it was brutal honesty and people were
Oh,
just
right.
thought they had
Yeah.
permission to say whatever crap entered their minds.
Well, I like the
No.
way you put it about being more vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think that's
It's
it because even as an employer, I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you this thing or what I think you should be doing or where I think you should be going in the company even if I don't have a path for you to get there right now. That's
mhm.
hard to tell somebody because now you've set different expectations, right?
Mhm. But I think, thinking from an employee mindset, you would want to hear that your employer was thinking about you in that way,
Right.
even
Yeah.
if it couldn't be actualized at that moment.
Yeah. I always just put it all out there because I've been in every situation. Like I've literally been in all of the shoes. So I tell people, I'll be like, look, I'm going to tell you what I really see for you. I want to know if that's what you see for yourself. Like if this is the track you're thinking in this moment. And I'll say, but I'm also going to be very clear that like I don't have an answer for you. I don't have a path for you. I don't know if we're going to get there, how long we're going to take to get there. I'm like, I want you to understand that because I've been strung along in the past. And that was really harmful to me, thinking like, oh, I'm going to get this promotion next year, or I'm going to get this promotion after I do X, Y, and Z. And then it didn't come. And I was like, so I don't, I just tell people exactly what I'm thinking. And I
I
don't
think
know
that's
if that's good
amazing.
yet, but that's what I do.
I could see more benefit than harm in that situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to also like have the mentality that you respect the people you're talking to. I think there's this other
What? You should
thing.
respect people?
I know it's a revelation,
I
really.
know, totally.
Especially with employee relationships, because I mean, there's been such a I mean, I can't even find a adjective that's good enough, but just like, a dreadful history of employer-employee relationship in this country, where, I mean, we've literally, I mean, we've dehumanized workers to the point
Yep.
where we think that they are childlike.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, even worse than that. And so, I think that's where it starts, is like understanding that this is an adult who you respect as a colleague. That's how I talk about, the folks at work as much as I can. I just like, if I'm introducing them, I'm like, this is my colleague, not like this is my low level staff member, or,
Oh my
or,
God.
our hand or worker. Like, I mean, it was strange, the way that people think about each other. And for me, it's like we're all professional adults, like doing this thing together. We're a team. This is my colleague. Like, they're not different than me. We're just doing different jobs. They're not better or worse than me. I'm not better or worse than them. Like, we just have different skill sets, and we're applying them in different spaces in this work that we're doing together. And so, what's interesting to me actually is that the way that people speak to one another, and the way that they treat each other, the way that they choose to be vulnerable or not with each other, it's actually a lot to do with their mentality and how they really see you. So I think
Yep.
just calling that out and understanding that, like, we should be thoughtful about that and not fall into basically these really weird stereotypical roles, where I've been thinking about, like, where does that come from? And I honestly feel like, I don't know, it comes from lived experience for sure. But I'm just curious of, like, how much of this plays in from, like, I don't know, like, TV, media, movies, like
Hmm.
the evil kind of, like, roles that we see bosses play. I'm like, are we just, like, doing a little cosplay right now? And, like, we're just trying to mimic what we see on TV? Because some of the stuff, I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, you're not even gonna get productivity out of people. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's actually harmful, but it's like, where did you learn this? And I mean, maybe you learned it from your boss, sure, but I also think, like, especially for, like, new first time, like, managers, supervisors, bosses, whatever, they got to pull from somewhere.
Yeah, they do.
Hmm.
And I don't think in my experience, they pull from their experiences. But those experiences, I'm guessing 95% of the time, don't include an element of vulnerability or empathy
Right,
or
right,
community
right.
or basic respect for other humans.
No, and it could actively work against it. Like, I mean, even out loud, where they're like, I mean, I think about things that I've heard people say, like, you can't be easy on people, or, like, whatever. Like,
Oh my God, yes.
you can't let them have that, or they'll take, give them an inch and they'll take a foot, or whatever the saying is. Like, people say all kinds of things that are interesting, and probably again come from a place of, like, maybe trauma, maybe, like, hurt, maybe bad experiences in the past, or whatever. But again, their stuff is not your stuff. And so I think the other thing is, like, being brave enough to just, like, do what you actually think is correct, like, from your intuition, from, like, your inner
Hmm.
space, instead of, like, letting it be colored by all of these other influences on the outside, and being afraid that if you don't, you'll do it wrong. Because what
Yep.
I've seen is, like, the more and more and more I lean into my intuition, the better things get, actually. Like, I mean, for me, I've at least, this is my experience of, like, if I really trust myself, and I just do the things that I really think I should do, without letting everyone else, kind of creep into my head. First of all, even if it doesn't turn out the best, at least you were true to yourself. So now you can know what that feels like, right? But usually, I mean, I can just tell you that in my experience, it's worked a lot better than me just, trying to take the lead of other people.
I think this goes back to something that I say maybe every episode, now that I think of it. But there is no one right way to do things, or
Right.
how it's always been done isn't how it
Right.
necessarily should be done.
Yes.
So trust your intuition and know that you are smart and you are capable and you
Mhm.
can do this because you have the potential to do this. And don't listen to those outside forces that are saying no or telling you how to do it. Trust yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for listening in. We hope that this was uplifting for you. We hope that you're staying well and taking care of yourself, reflecting and trusting yourself. Stay uplifted, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Tessa.
We'll see you next time. Bye.